Howdy, all you delicious people. I'm here today to view Strange Days. So, we are to go on and first off have a 1995 film that is to try and pretend that it's a 2000 movie when neither one of these years really matter for this film because 2000 has already happened. And I guess they naturally assumed that they would probably have 5 years worth of impact for this movie and then the world would end because that's the natural assumption for the year 2000 was to lead to the world ending for whatever goofy reason. But it seems that it ends up getting pretty close to the world ending in this film. So, because there is to be some controversial moments in this movie. So, let me tell you about the focus of this film. So, we have a former detective, Lenny Nero, who goes on and turns around and is to be selling these squid devices illegally. And these squid devices are to be these kind of headsets and this certain equipment that is to be recording through the mind and the eyes of another person, so you're consistently after this person's to record whatever it is they are recording, the other person goes on and is to be able to witness what this other person had gone on and witnessed through this point of view of that person. So this other person who's watching this clip can't go on and shift or control this. They're just living vicariously through another person for X number of minutes. So we have Lenny that goes on and has this kind of device, and he is selling these tapes or these clips and these squid devices to a number of people, so that way he can try to make some money off of them. So this leads Lenny to further and further realize that these clips are to start to get dangerous more and more because Lenny is to find out that there is a killer on the loose who is consistently sending Lenny these tapes. As well as also Lenny is to find out about an event that is to lead to Jericho 1, who is this activist slash singer, it seems. And so Lenny is to then go on and find out what that big event is, that controversial event that is to be so uh, uh, nuclear to have it possibly create a war for this world, that we now have to go on and have Lenny, who is to go and find out who is to then be connected to this whole event or who knows about it and who also could be in danger because of it. So, with that said, I think it's about that time to just go on into kind of, because I kind of teed it up. Now I think it's about that time to just go on and tell you where you can go on and see this movie, and then go out of my way to just go into spoilers because there's a lot to just dissect here. I don't know if I'm going to go on and state everything that happens in the movie because more than likely I'm probably not going to remember 2 hours and 40 some odd minutes of this whole entire film. But I'm going to try as much as possible to probably also condense down this film because to just try to get it out as quickly as possible, as well as having all this information. So, check this movie out on Doxy. But so, with that said, I think it's about that time to just go into that double 5-time territory because I think it's about that time yet again to go into spoiler time. Spoiler time. It's about that time you spoil this movie. Before we go into the spoilers, one last thing. So, This movie is to go on and have a lot of intimate moments. You're going to see quite a bit of skin in this movie. So that is to be one selling point for this film, really. But beyond that, I think it's about that time to just go into spoiler time. Spoiler time, it's about that time you get to spoil this movie. So, at the very beginning of the movie, we go on and have these three men that are robbing this Thai restaurant. And so, it seems what happens is we have these guys who try to rob this Thai restaurant, and it seems the police are to have pulled up, and we are to see this through the point of view of this robber. And so what happens is that one of them ends up running off to try to see if he can make it, which he probably doesn't. And we have the two other men who go on to the rooftop of this building to try to see if they can jump from rooftop to rooftop. One guy ends up trying to jump from the other rooftop, and he ends up falling to his death. So we have Lenny, who gets out of the squid device, and he is to complain to a guy named Trick that that he hates whenever anybody is to die in these things, because it ends up kind of giving him this buzz. So Lenny is to go on and talk to Tick and just be like, well, like, I think the video that you did is pretty good here, so like I'll go on and I'll buy this from you, but like I want to also see what else you got, because Tick is to be kind of this dealer of all of these clips, because we have a number of people throughout town where Lenny goes to find out what kind of clips they have. So it seems we also go on to have Lenny, who is to find this clip from these women who are to go on and basically have girl on girl kind of moments. So Lenny is to mention how like he liked the video, but also you would have to go on and have this person look like lovingly with their eyes, so that way the device can work better. So while this whole moment is happening, like it's not just some job. So we have, well, kind of Lenny is just kind of running around finding all these clips. We then have a girl named Iris who is running for her life from these two police officers. And so they end up having like through the police, them getting like a call asking like where these guys are. And so we have a guy named Steckler who is mentioning that he is just chasing after a like a man and just kind of making things up. So both Dwayne and Streckler are chasing after this woman, and they meet at this subway station, and this girl is waiting for the last ditch minute for her to jump into this subway to try and get away from these men. But all this leads is to one of the police officers to break his way into one of these doors, grab Iris, try to pull her out of the subway, to then instead have them pull off her hairpiece to realize that she has now had one of these squid devices on her head, and she is to have recorded this whole moment. And so they're like, oh my god. So these police officers. So we have Lenny that is to go on and have one of these men who already have like a massive head of hair. We have Lenny who is tossing this wig with this device on his head to have him go out and record something. So we're starting to get the tie here that Lenny is to work with a number of people that are all to be spying on people or to need to find clips for Lenny. And so we have Lenny who is to make his way home to have Iris be calling him, and Lenny, by the time he picks up, Iris hangs up the phone. So we have Lenny that's just like, okay, well, like, so Lenny goes home to go on and uh, check out this video of the past of him being with Faith. So he has this home headset that he uses to go on and remind him of all these memories of him and Faith. So Lenny, of course, is to be rollerblading, and then he goes on to be with Faith, and they are to go on and sleep together. So Lenny is to go on and watch that whole video, and so on and so forth. So Lenny is to then need to have a meeting with this client. So Lenny goes on and meets with this client who seems to be involved in the entertainment industry, and he is to be this lawyer. So Lenny goes on and meets with this guy, and this guy has never gone on and done this before. So Lenny is to kind of go on and give him a sample of what it is that he's going to experience, and it seems that this guy is really interested. So all of a sudden, we end up seeing Iris, who dumps this clip thing into Lenny's car, and then is to try to find Lenny. Hopefully, like, that is to actually be Lenny's car. Yeah, so we have Lenny talking to this guy, and so by the time that this guy's convinced, and Lenny's like, okay, like, I'll go on and I'll give you a squid device so you can go on and watch all these clips, because if anything, you're just going to consistently keep coming back to me for the like the little discs to play all these things. So that's where I kind of get you, is through that. Like, I can give you the device, but like, you're going to go on and you're going to need like other videos from me. So while these guys are walking off, we all of a sudden have Max that is to be arresting Lenny, and we then have Lenny's client who ends up running off, and Lenny's like, Max, like, come on. Like, so we find out that both these guys are friends. So Max is like, yeah, like, that was a pretty good joke, right? And Lenny's like, dude, you just cost me some money. And Max is like, well, I'm sorry. Like, it was all just good and fun, right? So Lenny and Max sit together on this bar, or at this bar, and so Max is kind of watching the TV and seeing the Jericho 1 kind of pro-activist music video and so on and so forth. And so Lenny and Max are talking about Max's backstory, how Lenny used to mention that Max is so lucky, and Max is like, well, yeah, I'm so lucky. Max at some point had gotten a bullet in his head at one point that he survived from, but the pension that he used to be getting from the police is to not really be enough to live off of. So Max is have to turn around and do all these kind of security jobs, which we'll find out later what Max is to be now being doing the security job for. So Lenny goes on and is to leave, and is to find out that his car is getting towed. So Lenny is trying to pay off this tow truck driver by giving him a check. The guy's like, no. Lenny is trying to give this guy a watch, and this watch is fake. And so Lenny is to just see that his car is to be driven off, and with this tow truck driver. So Lenny's like, well, I guess I can't go on and drive my car now. So Lenny then has to go on and call Mace to drive him around. Come to find out, Mace and Lenny are seemingly old friends, because Mace had gone on to run home to find out that one of the one of Mace's family members had gone on and been arrested, and by the time that Mace runs into the house, she had found out that Lenny had taken care of Mace's family. And so Mace is in Lenny's like eternal debt, it seems. So we have Mace that is to take on Lenny and his client, who of course is to be Fumitsu. Sure. So we have Lenny that is to try and go on and make this deal, and Mace is saying to Lenny, it's like, well, hey, like, don't go on and put any of those devices on in my car. Do it anywhere else, but don't do it here. So Lenny is to struggle with Mace on that, and so even to the point of Mace wanting to throw Lenny out of her car at certain points. So we have Lenny who is talking to Fumitsu, and they are to want to go to this certain club because Iris was to also state to Lenny when Lenny was to be at this bar and Iris was to talk to Lenny about possibly Iris, Faith, and a number of other people that Lenny is connected to could be in danger, and that Iris is going to go on to this hotel to try and sneak away, and that Iris was also telling Lenny about this clip that is to be in Lenny's car, and then Iris tries to run away because she realized that like being out here is very unsafe. So, and that's I think also when one of the police officers end up spotting Iris with Lenny. So, or at some point they have to connect Lenny to Iris at some point. But so, because for what happens later. So, Lenny ends up going on to this club, and we have Lenny that, of course, is with this client, but he's much more focused on the talent that is, of course, playing in this band, because in this band we have the singer who is actually Faith and the guitarist who is Grant. So we have Lenny that is to make his way to try and meet with Faith because she's in danger, and so Faith and Lenny end up having to have this conversation with Grant, and Grant is trying to tell Lenny that Faith has no interest in him, and that if anything, Lenny just wants or Grant just wants Lenny to go away, so Grant ends up sicking Wade on Lenny, who is to be this kind of football star. So Wade takes Lenny out and punches the crap out of him, and Lenny's like, hey, do whatever you're gonna do, but don't mess up my eyes. So come to find out, Lenny figures out another way to get into this club via this back entrance, that he is to meet up with this guy who has no legs, and so Lenny is to go on and give him this clip that he can go on and walk on this beach. And so this guy is to tell Lenny, the handicapped guy, the guy in the wheelchair, that there really is some clip that is left for Lenny. So Lenny takes this clip and at some point is to go on and watch it. So we go on to have Lenny sneaking around to meet up with Faith, and is to ask her, like, well, hey, did Iris talk to you? Because she ended up saying something to me. And so, like what was Iris talking about you being in danger for? And Faith doesn't really give Lenny much of anything to go on with, but Faith is to tell Lenny that Max is protecting her because uh, Max's security job is watching over Faith, and Lenny is to go on and feel betrayed by Max. So it's like, well, hey, like, you didn't tell me that you were watching over, like, the woman I love. And so Max is to kind of tell Lenny as he sees him, it's like, hey, man, like, I'm sorry I didn't bother to tell you, but you know what? Like, I thought it was like two birds with one stone. Like, I was kind of protecting your woman, and like, I needed the money. So, like, I just went on and was just to continue to do this job. And so Lenny's like, oh, okay, I understand. I get it. So Lenny then goes on to uh, eventually lead him to. I think he ends up getting beaten up again at some point with these two guys and this girl, and Lenny tries to give up this watch, and the guy just takes the watch and beats him with it. But I think that might happen also in the later part of this film, but I'm not quite sure. So, anyways, we have Lenny that leaves, and so Lenny then is to go into Mace's car as she's driving, and Lenny is to watch this clip. So Lenny realizes that this is a clip of somebody breaking into somebody's place, and it's like, oh, it's just another B&E kind of video. But come to find out, Lenny is to realize that this is to all lead to this guy going on and killing Iris, and like taking advantage of her while he's doing it. Like, really just banging her in this bathroom and then killing her. So Lenny is to tell Mace to drive to this one like motel, and come to find out by the time he gets there, he realizes that Iris is being hauled away, and I think that's possibly when the cops, one of the officers, is to realize that Lenny and Mace are kind of looking on at Iris, and that's when they probably put two and two together here. So Lenny is to have this other clip, and so he's realizing that, like, that he may go on and be in danger here. So, because like, this clip was specifically meant for Lenny, and so Lenny could go on to be next. So, Lenny is grabbing all of these clips from his home, and he's like, I gotta get out of here. And so, come to find out, when Mace and Lenny are driving around, we then have these cops that are then after them. So, Mace is to state that while she's driving around, it's like, hey, this is like, this is what I do. So Mace is driving around trying to lose these guys, but instead it seems more and more that we end up losing a tire from one of these cars, or from one of the from one of the limos car thing. Anyways, so the more and more we go on here, the more that this car that Mace is in is having problems driving around, and so we get to the point where the cops are to toss gas all over this car and try and burn it, and so Mace drives into the water, and they end up having a shotgun in the trunk to blow this trunk, and they end up getting out of the vehicle, and so Mace is to go on and get her family to go to some other family's place so they can kind of hide out. So now we have Lenny going on uh, to seeing whatever this clip is. So coming to find out, Lenny is to realize how hugely controversial this whole clip is, and is to now force Mace to then sit down and watch this clip also, even though she's never gone on and done this before, stating that it's like, hey, you need to see this for yourself. So Mace goes on and is to watch this clip, and come to find out it was Iris who had gone on and taken Jericho 1 and his bodyguard and this other girl and drive off. So what happens is that at some point we find out that Iris was hired by Grant to watch over Jericho 1 and to hope that this guy isn't doing any other like side deals or something shady. So because he owns him, and when Jericho 1 dies, like we had Lenny who's talking to Grant about like, well, hey, it seems like you lost like a big artist, and Grant is just like, well, yeah, but like I'll go on and I'll get several others. But anyways, so we have Iris that is witnessing that these cops were to go on and pull Jericho 1 over. It's like, okay, what is going to be the controversial thing out of this? And so come to find out, we have out of these two cops, Strickler, who is to realize that this guy that he had pulled over is Jericho 1. And he's like, well, hey, you're that activist guy, the musician, right? And so we have Strickler that goes on and shoots this guy. And so that's when has all the rest of the characters all run off, and then the police are to run after Iris, who they then realize is to have this squid device, and they're like, oh my god, she had recorded all this. So Mace and Lenny are to be both be frightened by what they were to go on and see, and so now they have to turn around and send this same tape, or give this tape to either the authorities or to possibly have Max go on and at some point call Lenny to trade off this tape, like the tape for, or the clip for Faith, and but that's when we also have to have Max learn about this clip, and so that's what they end up doing next. Both Lenny and Mace end up driving on to find where Max is. They show him this clip, and he's like, well, I guess I'm not going to be eating anymore for at least a year. So, come to find out, we have Max who's going on and having this whole story about this death squad, about these police officers who are to go on and just kill off all these certain people. And so we might go on and connect the deaths that this POV person is doing with also this assassination attempt. Like they might just lump it all together to justify all that. So we have Lenny and we have Mace, and so here's when like Lenny kind of puts it together. It's like, oh yeah, like I completely forgot that reasonably like Faith could be in danger now because Iris was to say so, and like this is probably why that Faith could be in danger. So Lenny is going and running off to save Faith, and Mace, who is upset by Lenny just wanting to go on and get to Faith one more time. We have Mace who tries to destroy all the clips of Faith, and if we didn't already have Lenny, who had to go on and trade, give these cops this fake clip that wasn't the actual controversial clip, and instead Lenny was to state to Mace, like, oh no, I just gave them a clip of me and Faith in this hot tub once, and so it's not the same clip. So we have Lenny that again is to try and run off to try and talk to Faith more. And so that leads Lenny to again be talking to both Faith and Grant. And Grant again is to now say to Lenny, it's like, well, hey, like, she doesn't want you. Like, she wants nothing to do with you. And so this time around, Grant is wanting to have Faith decide whether she wants to be with Grant or be with Lenny. And Faith is like, well, I obviously want to be with Grant. And then Faith is to try to go on and just shun Lenny and try to get him to finally go away. Because Faith is technically putting on a show here because Grant is to just be like, well, hey, like, you're mine now and I own you. So because of that whole controversial moment where at some point Lenny is to finally go on and talk to Faith again, and Faith is going to reveal that Grant had gone on and been like so paranoid and had been consistently watching all of these clips with this device that at some point Grant is just been so obsessed to having us possibly believe that Grant was to be funding all of these cops to go on and either assassinate his own people or to also have Grant go on and to be killing people off to the side. So that this could all be tied to Grant. But so we have Lenny and we have Mace, who again, after Lenny is to have gotten beaten up by a number of men and had like glass being kind of thrown in his face and so on and so forth. We also have a moment where Lenny is tempted to give the clip to the authorities, and when Mace goes on and is to do what Lenny can't, because Max calls Lenny and is to state, like, well, hey, like, how about you trade the tape for Faith, and that'll be a good idea. So Mace instead is like, no, we should go on and turn this clip in to do the right thing. And so Mace tries to give this clip to Palmer Strickland, who is to be Lenny's old boss. They bump into one another, and so Lenny ends up making the statement about no longer needing to call Strickland Sir because he no longer works for him. But like Strickland still is an authority figure, so he still is a police officer, so got to treat him with some kind of respect. But so Mace tries to turn this into Strickland. Strickland, I believe, is to take it, but he does not go on and watch it. But it seems that later on he ends up doing something about it, and then he ends up going on to arrest the right policemen who are attached to this. So, anyways, pushing further on. So, we have Mace and we have Lenny going back to her place, and so when Lenny is to wake up, he goes on and finds another envelope with his name on it to find this other clip where the killer is in Lenny's place, watching over him. Even to have this killer have this blade out and is so tempted to slice Lenny in the neck. Lenny runs to the bathroom thinking it's like, well, hey, did I go on and did I get nicked? And so Lenny is to also find out that Tick, the guy that Lenny is to get clips from, is to be kind of catatonic. To where Lenny is to try to wake Tick up, and Tick can't wake up. So he's like in this kind of just like he's in this like kind of coma that he can't wake out of ever. So, because come to find out, we'll find out another person is going to be in that same state later on. So, we have Lenny that is again realizing that Faith could still be at risk. So, Lenny is waiting for this Millennia party where Lenny is to know exactly where Faith is going to be so he can possibly save her again. So, we have Mace, who is just like, Lenny, why are you going on and saving this girl? It makes no sense. And Lenny is like, well, like, you know how there's some people that you just, like, feel that you need to protect them or need to save them? And Mace is just like, well, yeah, there are all those kinds of people. And then he's like, well, yeah, that's what I'm trying to do here, is I feel that I need to save this woman. And so that's what I'm going to go on and do. So now we have this like the end of this movie, like trying to come on to like the finishing up this film, so I can wrap it up. Because I know there's a number of clips, there's a number of scenarios, there's a number of things going on. So that I hopefully had mostly gone to and gone through and whatever. So we have Lenny that is to make his way where Faith is staying with Grant. And after Faith is going to do this gig, she's talking about how she's going to bring in the new year and party and whatever. So Faith is to go on with Grant to their place, and so Lenny at some point is to follow after them. So come to find out, by the time Lenny gets through all of this stuff, we have Lenny and we have Mace separating. And so what happens is the cops end up finding Mace and they try to arrest her. But it seems that Mace ends up getting the upper hand on these cops and she arrests them and cuffs them to this pole. And we all of a sudden have all these other police officers that are coming to like help out these police officers, and they go on and they start clubbing onto Mace, and this all brings this hugely massive chaotic like moment. So Lenny is to make his way to Faith and Grant's place to then find out that there is a aftermath moment that Lenny is to miss out on. So, come to find out, when Lenny gets here, we have another clip with Lenny's name on it. So, Lenny ends up watching this clip and is to realize that Faith was to have been grabbed by this killer and was to be seduced and then possibly killed. So, Lenny is to then go on and try to find out where Faith is, but instead he ends up finding a catatonic Grant. And so Lenny naturally assumes that Grant had possibly done all of this and had possibly killed Faith, but Lenny can't find Faith's body. So come to find out, because Faith is not really dead. And we'll come to find out who the killer really is. Is it going to be Faith? Come to find out, No. We end up finding out that the killer all along was the most unexpected character, which, of course, was actually Max. Because, of course, Max ends up coming to the fray, and he is to state here that when Max was to go on and be with Faith, it seemed like they had a real relationship going between the two of them. And that Max was to, of course, play around with this squid device, and Faith is just like, well, yeah, like I don't know how many times that I would have Lenny be doing the same thing. So, uh, so both Faith and Max worked this all out together to have Max pin all of these murders and all these things on Lenny, and have Max get away with it, and how really, I think I'm gonna have to pause here for 1 second. Sorry about that. I didn't want to. This is phone call. So it's like, yeah, I didn't want to go on and get the notifications and stuff in there for all that stuff. So I figured I would just go on and try to relieve some things. But so, anyways, back to the film. So Max is to be the real, true, legitimate villain here, and really the whole cop thing of that whole clip was just a coincidence. There was no tying into Max, who was working with these other police officers. It was all just this weird coincidence that somehow tied to Jericho 1 and Grant and everything. So we go on to have Lenny and Max, which seems that Max is to have the upper hand, but then Faith kind of comes in to try to get the gun out of Max's hand, and that's, of course, when both Lenny and Max start to wrestle, and they start grabbing one another, and Lenny ends up tossing Max over this ledge, and so now we go on to have Max, who is holding on to Lenny's tie. And the funny thing of it is that Lenny had realized through Tick while going through this clip that someone who had gone on and used this device had to adjust it because whoever was wearing this device was colorblind. And so Lenny ends up telling Max, it's like, oh, like, so it had to have been you because you're colorblind. And Max is just like, oh, yeah, like, that's how it all works out. And Max benefited from being colorblind, so he would never go on and see Lenny's stupid ties. Come to find out, Lenny's stupid ties was the only thing that was keeping Max alive. And so Lenny was to get stabbed in the back by Max, and so now Max has to go on and turn around and pull the knife from out of his back to then try and cut this tie off so Max would fall to his imminent death. So we then have Lenny, who is to not go on and like do anything to Faith, but we end up finding out that Faith is to then go on and get interrogated for the next 6 hours about what had all happened. So we have Lenny, who rushes off to find out where Mace is, and come to find out there's a whole chaotic thing going on with all these people, and they're all attacking everybody. But then we finally have Strickland, who ends up coming in with this clip, and he's like, okay, like, you two police officers, you're arrested. And so we end up having Lenny coming in, and he ends up like saving Mace from anybody going on and touching her. So we go on, and by the end of this, we then realize that both Lenny and Mace are good for one another, and they end up kissing because, of course, it's New Year's. So yeah, like that is to really just be all in all it. So with that said, hopefully that mostly covers this film. It's kind of amazing that I was to only go on and talk for this film for 45 minutes because I thought it was going to be way longer than that. I thought it was going to be like an hour and a half, or at least probably like 2 hours out of the 2 hours and 45 minutes because I kind of really raced to try to get all of this out. Like, I'm trying to think if there's any like little detailish thing that I completely missed about or I didn't go into depth about. But there is like several scenes where I also try to like cut or minuscule as much as possible about a number of them, so I can go on and make this video short. So, with that said, if this thing doesn't feel quite complete, let me know in the comments below if there's anything that I forgot. But otherwise, like, this movie feels also very like Remnants, like the Hugh Jackman movie Remnants to me. Um, it also is to go on and feel like the recent Amazon show, The Peripheral, and I was to go on and talk about this movie and that, even though I'd never gone on and seen this movie, but it looks similar. So with that said, I'm gonna go on and get out of here. Goodbye, buddy. Goodbye, buddy.